There are many shows dedicated to Magic the Gathering strategies, decks, and formats. But unlike all of them, this channel is about discussing an individual card, an isolated card, an unrelated card. This is an Magic card.
Hello, my name is Dusty Cupboards, and welcome to episode number 2 of An Magic Card, the show where I exhaustively discuss a random Magic card. I was really surprised how many people seemed to find my first episode mildly entertaining, and I appreciated all of the great feedback. Ento, the Chestnut Knight, said, "I'm down for another random card talking series. This was entertaining. Good work." And then they also said, "I would definitely look into adding some appropriate backing music to the future videos. That's one criticism that I will take to heart, and I will try to do that." Christopher Thurstrup said, "Super entertaining, thank you. One point though, lowering the volume of the volume slightly to let your voice go through better." I will do that, and thank you for the smiley face. Luke Soderbloom most critically pointed out that I failed to mention when John Finkel won PT Kuala Lumpur in 2008 with a deck containing Kithkin Zephyronaut.
Right, boys and girls, button up, fasten your seatbelts. It's time for the final of Proto Kuala Lumpur. So, Kithkin Zephyronaut and Gold Meadow Harrier on the Finkel side of the board.
Kithkin Zephyronaut.
That is a critical omission, but I'm going to mention it here so everybody knows, set the record straight, and I will add it to the episode notes on the last episode as an errata. Totally Real YouTube user 1234 said, "I can't even see you, Dusty, but I can tell that you're incredibly handsome and talented. Thank you, Totally Real YouTube user 1234, for that great compliment." And now moving on to our main subject, one of the most popular cards in the history of Magic the Gathering. Alright, we got our old friend Kithkin Zephyronaut here. Let's click on the random button again. And there it is. It's the Talara's Bane. That's the card. Oh, it's from Eventide. That's the that's also it's kind of weirdly coincidental. Talara's Bane is a 2-mana black sorcery from Eventide, the 46th Magic the Gathering expansion released on Friday, July 25th, 2008, the 56th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution of Puerto Rico by Governor Luis Muñoz Marin, and the 41st birthday of actor Matt LeBlanc, best known for his supporting role in the 1998 film adaptation of the classic science fiction show Lost in Space. If you haven't seen that movie, you should, because unless I had bad taste when I was 10 years old, I'm pretty sure that movie frickin' rules. Eventide is the second set in the Shadowmoor block, the 14th block in Magic history, which is weird because the last video talked about Morningtide, which was the second set in the Lorwyn block, the 13th block in Magic's history, and together, these two blocks comprise what might be described as a super block on the double plane of Lorwyn-Shadowmoor, which is sometimes referred to as Shadowwyn, or Loremoor, or Winmoor. Perhaps. I'm actually not sure if anybody says any of those things. Both of these sets were a departure from the normal block structure at the time, which started in 1996 with Mirage block and persisted all the way until the release of Lorwyn. Technically, the first 3-set block would be Ice Age block, which began in 1995, but since the third set in that block didn't release until 2006, it's a bit confusing. Prior to 2006, Homelands was considered an Ice Age block though, so maybe we should still call that the first block? Anyways, to get back onto the main topic, the important thing to remember here is that the 1998 film adaptation of Lost in Space frickin' rules. Until the release of Lorwyn in 2008, every block had 3 sets, one large set followed by 2 smaller sets. Shadow Lore briefly interrupted that pattern by having 2 mini blocks consisting of one large set and one small set. Like Morningtide, which we discussed last week, Eventide is the smaller set in the Shadowmoor sub-block and therefore contained only 180 cards, as opposed to Shadowmoor's 301 cards. Following the double mini block of Lorwyn & Shadowmoor, Magic would return to the conventional 3-block structure until Battle for Zendikar block in 2015, which would bring back the 2-set block as the new normal, and then in 2017 they changed to a no-set block structure in which they just make stuff up as they go, which is actually very similar to how I make this show. The codename for Eventide was Donut, which you probably already knew. The lead designer for the set was some guy named Mark Rasuwater, and the set symbol found to the right of the type line on Eventide cards is the inverse of the Rising Sun set symbol from Morningtide cards. So I guess it's kind of like a setting sun if you were to stand on your head, which is fitting because Shadowmoor is the same whimsical plane of Lorwyn, only flipped, turned upside down. Remember all those warm bucolic scenes from Lorwyn? Those are long gone, friendo. We're in Spooksville now. Stuff is still kind of cute, but also bitey and stabby. Morningtide and Eventide are also both real words, so feel free to sneak them into normal conversation as a subtle way to let people know you're a big-time gamer. Number 47 of the 180 cards contained in Eventide, you'll find a humble little common called Talara's Bane, tucked snugly between Siphon Life and Umbra Stalker. I have never played Talara's Bane in my life. I don't know who Talara is, and I have no idea what is even happening in this art. But unless my internet connection cuts off, we're all about to find out. According to Webster's dictionary, Talara is a young elf from the Wiltleaf tribe. You might be thinking it's weird to have a black card named after an elf, but don't forget we're on Lorwyn/Shadowmoor here, where things get heckin' wacky at night. And during the daytime, the elves are big-time racist bungholes. The elves on Lorwyn:/Shadowmoor judge everything based on physical beauty, and if they judge you unworthy, they quickly turn from judge to jury to executioner. They also have horns, which looks pretty cool. The Wiltleaf tribe is literally just the nighttime version of the Guiltleaf tribe, because sure, why not? I love Lorwyn plus Shadowmoor, but honestly, it can be a bit much. The term Guiltleaf is probably more well known than Wiltleaf because they've got a palace and a nath. Talara, the Wiltleaf, is a safe right, a word I recognize from other cards, which apparently means
An elvish warrior devoted to protecting his people and the beauty of the world.
a little bit sexist there with the his. Our horned murder elves find themselves on the back foot at night as their beautiful dominance becomes a desperate attempt to preserve the little beauty that remains. But we know they're still shallow genocidal maniacs deep down, so let's not get all weepy about it, okay? Now that we know who Talara is, though, let's talk about this bane of hers. According to the chonky flavor text on Toil to Renown, Talara, who is pictured here crouching and absolutely festooned in glittery sparkles while getting dubbed, why do I write like this? Was the last survivor of her patrol. On Hallowed Burial, Talara is quoted lamenting the deathly quiet which follows a fight, saying that she would rather hear the screams of battle. While this quote can be interpreted as being pro-murder, which would kind of still be in character for her, it is more likely meant to communicate, again, the sorrow which she feels about the loss of her fellow patrollers. She is also quoted on Fetid Heath, absolutely roasting Gwyllions for their stupid dancing. Suck it, Gwyllions. Nobody even likes you, Gwyllions. So Talara's bane is Alulia. Oh, Lord. Alulia of the Night Hearth is also... Oh my gosh. Why did they do this to me? Alulia of the Night Hearth is also Alulia, Flamekin Soulstoke, because again, Lorwyn reasons. She is an elemental, known as a Flamekin, but also known as a Cinder, because Lorwyn reasons. Hashtag Lorwyn reasons. The important thing to understand is that she is a big fan of burning things, and elves are definitely flammable. It's also worth noting that we have a conflict here between two female characters, which means that Talara's Bane 100% passes the Bechdel test. Nice. This brings us squarely to the art for Talara's Bane, which is a rectangle. Now that we're familiar with Talara and those who might bequeath Bane upon her, we can surmise that the flamin' hot hottie on the left side might be one of Alulia's burninating friends, and that the individual on the right side is probably no longer one of Alulia's friends, even if at one point they might have managed to at least maintain some level of civility. Being stabbed in the back of the head with a red-hot spike has a way of really ending friendships. This uncomfortable-looking figure has the distinct look of somebody who might have been on a patrol, and given their long hair, horns, and ornate armor, it could be possible that they are also an elf. How this all connects to Talara is literally impossible to surmise, since although she is an elf who witnessed her elf friends get murdered on a patrol, there is simply no way we can prove that this isn't just a wacky coincidence. More importantly, the elves of Lorwyn:/Shadowmoor value beauty above all else, and this specific elf is not looking very attractive as his face literally incinerates from the inside. How would Talara feel sad seeing somebody die when they look so yucky while being murdered? The illustration is clearly very effective, making me immediately imagine what it would be like to have my cranium punctured and filled with searing flames. After looking at this painting, I'm almost 100% sure that I would not enjoy that experience. And in conveying this, the artwork is evocative of the brutality of war, especially war that is waged by people who are literally flaming skeletons. The illustration is by Joshua Hagler, Hagler, who has only ever done 7 pieces for Magic the Gathering, all of which appeared in 2008 in either Eventide or Shards of Alara. Many of his pieces feature a dramatic expressionist style with gritty texture and murky colors. His pieces are frequently quite disturbing, depicting somewhat vague scenes of unsettling fiends and dreamlike locations. Talara's Bane is actually less disquieting than most of Hagler's pieces. Both the Cinder and the Elf are shown pretty clearly, with the composition emphasizing the thrust of the Cinder's arm blade into the unfortunate Wiltleafer. The background is really what ties this piece most closely with Hagler's other Magic illustrations, with a more representational setting being eschewed in favor of a dark blotchy plane of brown and gray brush marks. This field of undefined oil paint could be interpreted as smoke, but the fact that interpretation is left to the viewer is one of the hallmarks of Hagler's surreal style. The way the flames shoot out of the eye sockets and mouth of the elven patrolster really emphasize the brutality of this glory kill. The way the greenish tints from the armor are brought up into the blazing flesh of the elf also lends a sort of otherworldly element to the violence. And overall, the color scheme is relatively understated, but diverse enough to feel like a completed piece. By following the strong diagonal of the painting's central elements, the viewer's eye naturally moves from the anguished face of the victim to the similarly positioned face of their assailant, which lends the scene a sense of immediacy and unresolved motion. It's unclear at this time why Joshua Hagler didn't continue doing pieces for Magic after his brief stint in 2008, but it might be that his style was most suited to the twisted world of Shadowmoor, and that as the game went on to other worlds with different aesthetics, there was less of a desire for his unique brand of baconesque nightmare. If you want to see more of his work, you should definitely seek it out though, as there are quite a few fantastic paintings attributed to him on various social media platforms. I reached out to him for comment literally like 5 minutes ago, and he has yet to respond. Let me check my email. Let me check my email. No, he hasn't responded yet. Which is odd, because I assume most professional artists sit at their computers 24/7 waiting for some stranger masquerading as antique furniture to ask them prying questions about a handful of Magic cards they illustrated 12 years ago. So at this point I feel like I've covered most of the important aspects of this card, except for what it actually does. You might expect that since it depicts a horrific murder, that the card might kill a creature or destroy target elf who is on a patrol. But no. Talara's Bane is a discard spell that is also a color-hosing life gain spell. When you cast Talara's Bane on your unsuspecting foe, who could potentially even be named Talara, they are going to have to reveal their hand. With their hand of cards laid bare for all to see, you now cackle wildly and choose a green or white creature card that is contained within their hand, and they are forced to discard it into their graveyard, while you are nourished with newfound life force, gaining a number of life points equal to the toughness of that discarded creature. How the turntables have turned. Your opponent will most likely concede, since their hand contained only one card, and that card was Impervious Greatworm, a green creature with 16 toughness. For the sake of science though, let's imagine a situation where they don't have Impervious Greatworm. Let's say your opponent is playing a blue deck and would therefore likely not have a green or white creature. Well, not so fast, Smarty Pants. Eventide has an array of cards featuring hybrid mana. Perhaps your mono blue opponent has a Gilder Baron in their hand. Well, that's a green creature. Tell them to slam that cute teddy bear oof straight into the garbage and gain a whopping 3 life. Maybe your opponent has a Gwyllion Hedge Mage in their black-red deck. Too bad, that's a white creature. Into the trash heap you go, Gwyllion. Nobody freaking likes you. We already established that. If you find yourself in the inexplicable situation where your opponent's deck isn't chocked full of thick Selesnya creatures, you can also employ a Painter's Servant to make all creatures in their hand whatever color you want. This card was printed in Shadowmoor, the set directly preceding Eventide, and it's clearly intended to be used specifically to combo with Talara's Bane. Maybe your opponent, like many other people, is running the enchantment Celestial Dawn. Well, guess what? Now all their big butt monsters are white and perfect targets for your 4 main deck copies of Talara's Bane. Lots of color hosing cards are generally thought of as sideboard cards, but Talara's Bane is clearly the exception. Although, you might want to run 3 main deck and 1 in your sideboard if you also have 4 Burning Wishes in your deck, so that you can access the Talara's Bane from your sideboard, giving you functionally 7 copies. You can also run Death Wish if you want to stay mono black, since the massive life gain from Talara's Bane will offset paying half of your life to tutor for it. Where are you going to get the most mileage out of your Banes though? Good news, it's legal in every format where it could see play. Modern, Pauper, Legacy, Vintage. You should probably get at least a playset for each format so you don't have to re-sleeve your copies. And despite only being printed 1 time, you can pick up copies from your local game store today for only 19 American cents. Upgrade to foils for only 28 cents and watch those flames shine. Like all stupid cards, this one likely sees the most play in the joke format EDH. Unfortunately, neither Talara or Illulia have been reprinted as a legendary creature yet. Both discard and life gain are pretty popular themes in Commander though, so perhaps Talara's Bane sees high levels of usage in those decks. According to EDH Rec, Talara's Bane sees play in 100% of the 6 decks that run it. That means that in 0.0003% of Kess Dissident Mage decks, Talara's Bane is an auto-include. Finally, to wrap up this unmitigated disaster of an episode, I'd like to circle back around to the why of Talara's Bane. We know who, we know what, we know where this card is, but why? Well, as mentioned previously, Talara is one of the less evil nighttime versions of the generally still pretty evil Lorwyn Shadowmoor elves. Unlike their daytime versions, the Giltleaf tribe, who are found in green and black, these pointy-eared sparkle hogs, the Wiltleaf tribe, are found mostly in green and white. The flavor text present on Talara's Bane really brings the card's narrative into full fruition. Your thoughts betray you, is what Alulia says to Talara. The card Talara's Bane doesn't show the death of her comrade, it shows her memory of that tragic event. Her bane is not their death, but the mental scars which it has left within her. The very thought of that horrible day causes her great duress, and that smoldering pain is what gives Alulia the most pleasure, and some amount of life based on the toughness of the creature which Talara mourns. It's a little bit complicated. It's like that part at the end of the 1998 film adaptation of Lost in Space, where the spider guy is consumed by his own spiders. I'm telling you, I'm like 90% sure that movie rules. That's it. That's the whole episode. I thought I'd go out on a high note and call back to Lost in Space. Thank you all for watching my stupid videos. I started this series because I was bored during the pandemic lockdown, and now I am marginally less bored. Let me know if I missed something. Let me know if you have a personal story having to do with Talara's Bane. Maybe you went to high school with Talara. Let me know if John Finkel ever used this card in a Pro Tour. Let me know if you are John Finkel and just want to say hi. Hello, John Finkel. I'm sorry if there are ads on this video. I don't know how that works. I literally just started doing this. I hope you are doing well. Life is hard for a lot of people right now, and I hope you will be kind to help offset that reality. Most importantly, I want you to be kind to yourself. You're doing the best you can do, and if listening to some idiot talk about magic cards gives you some reprieve, that's great. And you can look forward to joining me on the next episode of A Magic Card.